Welcome to Sikhcast, brought to you by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you for joining us for another discussion on Sabad Hajare Patshahi Dasmi. This is the 8th podcast episode in a series of 11, and I hope you've been following along with us. My name is Jasleen Kaur. I'm a research associate at SikhRI, and I'm joined today by Harinder Singh, co-founder of the Sikh Research Institute and innovation director. Fateh Harinder Singh, how are you?
Warji Khalsa, Warji Fateh. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. Before we get started, as always, we're going to listen to the recitation. I'm going to read the English translation, and then we're going to have a conversation. A little bit about the recitation before you hear it. It's done by Harinder Singh, who's a research associate at SikhRI and has background in Gurbani linguistics. The pronunciation follows the most simple and non-discretionary pattern meant for the masses, so Harinder Singh is pronouncing it the way it's inscribed. Let's take a listen.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਤਿਲੰਗ ਕਾਫੀ ਪਾਤਿਸਾਹੀ ਦਸਵੀਂ ਕੇਵਲ ਕਾਲਈ ਕਰਤਾਰ ਆਦਿ ਅੰਤ ਅਨੰਤ ਮੂਰਤ ਘੜਨ ਭੰਜਨ ਹਾਰ ਰਹਾਉ ਨਿੰਦ ਉਸਤਤ ਜੌਨ ਕੇ ਸਮ ਸਤੁਰ ਮਿੱਤਰ ਨਾ ਕੋਏ ਕੌਣ ਬਾਟ ਪਰੀ ਤਿਸੈ ਪਥ ਸਾਰਥੀ ਰਥ ਹੋਏ ਤਾਤ ਮਾਤ ਨ ਜਾਤ ਜਾਕੁਰ ਪੁੱਤਰ ਪੌਤਰ ਮੁਕੰਦ ਕੌਣ ਕਾਜ ਕਹਾਹੇਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਆਨ ਦੇਵ ਕੇ ਨੰਦ ਦੇਵ ਦੈਤ ਦਿਸਾ ਵਿਸਾ ਜਿਹ ਕੀਨ ਸਰਬ ਪਸਾਰ ਕੌਣ ਉਪਮਾ ਤੌਨ ਕੋ ਮੁਖ ਲੇਤ ਨਾਮ ਮੁਰਾਰੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
Now that we've heard the recitation, I'll be reading the English translation. Dilang Kafi, Sovereign 10. Only Creator is the death. From the beginning to the end, carver and destroyer of endless forms, pause, reflect. For whom slander and praise are alike, there is no foe or friend. What trouble came to Krishna that he had to be the charioteer of Arjuna's chariot? For who has no father, mother, caste, children, and grandchildren is the emancipator? Then for what deed did Krishna come and call himself the son of Devaki? The one who created deities, demons, directions, corners, and the whole expanse. What's the glory if the mouth names that one Krishna who killed Mur? So, Harinder Singh, this composition has a lot of background references that I wasn't super familiar with. But I also wanted to start with the rag, or the musical mode, which I'm also not familiar with. So what is the significance of Dilang Kafi here?
Well, you are somewhat familiar with it, but for the larger audience, the Tilang Rag. So there's a Tilang and a Kafi element. What I want to bring out is there is sort of the mood around this is that the efforts which are being made is not fully impressive. Mm-hmm. So there is yet some yearning why these efforts are being made. In the musical genres, they say this is really a very chanchal rag, which means fickle is the word we have used. You know, the mind is fickleish, if I may call it. So it deals with that element. And the Kafi for generally accepted view is this, look, this one's got some sort of folk elements in it, and melodies of folk are a part of it. And this is where, in the larger sense, there is, when you look even in Guru Granth Sahib, when this rag comes, the Sufi and Islamic vocabularies come, there might be some this romantic and other pleasing mood elements which will come into it. But they're all for some higher yearning, but the efforts are not quite there yet. That's what's being said. Some people even call it, this is semi-romantic rag. And you will see the correlation with this Sabad in this particular Sabad Hajare Patshahi Dasmi.
Okay, I want to get into like the questions about what is being referenced here. So I've kind of paired the lines instead of separating them out like we've done in the past, because I'm understanding them as being needing to be read together in that way so that we can understand the context fully. So if we go to the first and the second lines, where we are asked to pause and reflect, the Guru says, only the creator is the death. From the beginning to the end, carver and destroyer of endless forms. Pause, reflect. So what is the context around this composition? You have translated or you've titled the translation Creator Death, which is kind of, those are some heavy words. So what is the impact of this statement in terms of existing ideas of death, maybe in popular culture and popular religion of the Guru's time? What's going on here?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And I think death always is something, unless somebody's dealt with it, it starts to worry people very quickly. I think the word I want to deal with here is kal. Mm-hmm. And this word comes in this particular Shabad. It's also invoked in other Banis and Shabads contributed to or attributed to Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj. But the word also comes in, popular Banis like Jap Sahib as well as it's mentioned when we say akal, the and kal, that's the same word in Guru Granth Sahib. In Mool Mantra, it's invoked as well. So we got to understand this word a little bit more. It is not as simple as death or time. Here, the invocation is largely of death. So what is this? It's a Sanskrit word, which means exactly that, time or death. But in the larger Hinduism, idea of kal is that there is a deity or a god related to death. Okay? Sometimes they have their own agents or messengers, and they are called yamas or jamas. Jamdut, the messenger of death, literally, or Yamdut, it's the same. Ya and Ja sounds are interchangeable. And what is more important to understand is that in the larger Hindu philosophies or ideologies or religions, if I may call it, it actually is very, very popular in Shaivite tradition and Vaishnavite traditions. And when we're dealing in this Shabad, Kal is mentioned in many texts of Hindu texts, what we call it today. And this is where the romance element, because Krishna is invoked here quite a bit. So Mahabharata uses the idea of Kal, Ramayana uses the idea of Kal, Bhagavad Puran uses the idea of Kal, and these are three very, very, very popular texts. They're heavily referenced within Guru Granth Sahib as well, because a particular story or a particular character is referenced. And one of those characters who is very central in Mahabharata is Krishna. And Krishna reveals himself as Kal in the context of Mahabharata as well, when he's talking to Arjun. So we'll get into it much more. The point here is that even in global traditions, when you look at it, there is some element of death attached to all ideologies, religions, and philosophies. In the case of Hinduism, there is a god or a demigod or a messenger of God, a death, which is related to the word Kal. And that's what's getting disrupted here. And what Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is saying, look, I know that, I've heard that, I've read that, I've experienced it in the people's beliefs. But let me tell you, for me, the creator and the death is exactly the same. And he uses the word keval, which is very, very important, linguistically speaking, because that means only. So he's saying, look, there's only one creator who is the death itself. Because that very creator is the one who makes everything, carves everything, and destroys everything. So essentially he's saying, forget all the hierarchies. For Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, what he's telling me is, I don't subscribe to any of these hierarchies related to death or people or gods who may be controlling death. I only subscribe to the creator who equates death, and this is it for me.
Yeah, I think I wonder if like that disruption is I'm just imagining that if I've separated out death from the creator because I see death as this like horrible bad thing that's somehow in opposition to the creator, that this would really be a jarring first line for me to hear. And I think even like if we say that that's not the paradigm we work in, we can like logically know that and still feel somehow that like death has to be kind of separated out from the things that we see as like good. So yeah, that's a really interesting I don't know.
You just use that word, separated. And remember, this is part of the issue, which is being tackled fully in this series of Sabad Hajare.
Yeah.
It's the separation which creates the issue,
Yes.
including when we separate the death from the creator.
Mhm.
So the one who creates is also in charge of that creation, which includes when the creation leaves this earth or our galaxies, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so essentially, it is bringing them together and connecting death with the creator itself.
Yeah, that's great. I guess so. Then the question comes: you've introduced these characters, or I guess the Guru has introduced these characters, and you've now referenced them. So in the third and fourth lines, when the Guru writes, for whom slander and praise are alike, there is no foe or friend. What trouble came to Krishan that he had to be the charioteer of Arjun's chariot? So for those of us who don't know, you've now referenced it a little bit. What is the story of these two characters? And why invoke this story here? What do you think is like, going on here?
I think this is where we really have to understand Krishna.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up going literally in the square or the street on streets in Jhansi, UP, on Janmashtami, when they celebrate the birth, the Janam, on the Ashtami in that Thithi system and the fortnightly system. 8th day of the lunar calendar, when it begins, they celebrate the birth of Krishna. And primarily, you will notice, and I grew up with this, they primarily talk about his birth and his romance. And this is where popular culture doesn't fully get these things. And Guru Gobind Singh Patshahi is saying, look, what you really need to understand is Krishna is much more than what you are being played with. Because Krishna Leela, Guru Nanak references that in Asaki very well too, that this Leela is the place that you are being only showed the play, but there's a larger thing going on. And what is that larger thing? What we need to understand about Krishna is that he's a very, very popular God. And before the love and tenderness is brought in, he actually is a God of protection. And I don't think most people understand that because popular stories don't bring that out. This is where, at some point, Krishna introduces and invokes himself as the Kal. And that's what he did in particular story of Mahabharata. But what I'm trying to say is he is worshipped as one of the major incarnations of Vishnu. So when we use the word Vishnu, Krishna together, sometimes the word Hari also comes in because they are all the same. They're basically incarnations of a particular major god. And Krishna is one of those major incarnations who is not just about romance. His stories are primarily on that. He's actually the god of protection who invoked himself as the Kal, the death itself. And in the larger practices of that, not just in India, even Hare Krishna society have declared him to be the supreme God. That's why. So Krishna becomes this huge, even in today's culture, we use the word God for people who have made it big, right? So that's how you have to think of him. Krishna, who is revered primarily in the Vaishnavite traditions because of avatar of Vishnu, he's actually been declared a supreme God by many of the denominations. So in that context, Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is saying, look, sorry, let me talk about Arjun here as well. So Arjun and Krishna come together in an epic called Mahabharata. And Mahabharata is essentially about, if you look at it, there are two dynasties fighting. One is Kauravas and others are Pandavas. and Arjun is one of the heroes of the Pandav side. And Krishna is convincing him to fight a good fight in the battlefield. And there he invokes himself as the Kal. Let me tell you, as the death itself. And he convinces Arjun to go fight. Essentially, he reminds Arjun, and that's what's called Gita, and what he reminds Arjun of is that his job is not to think. His job, he's a Kshatriya, his job is just to fight. So that's the background of this. And what Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is, as all capable Guru, our sovereign, does it so beautifully. He basically disrupts that whole argument. He's saying, look, the death creator I know of has no friends or enemies. But here, you picked a side. And you made Arjun your friend and his dynasty the friend, and rest of them have become enemies. No, the one I believe in, the death creator, has no friend or enemy. And that one is not affected by praise or slanders, which means you were praising Arjun and other people were praising Pandavas. So basically it's saying this is a particular play, a particular setting, a particular world play in a particular epical play. This Krishna can't be the death itself, because Krishna picked sides. Krishna was of creating praise and slander for particular people. That's one part of this line. And the second part is he's invoked as the word Parath. Parath or Path or Pritha or Prutha are different words used in Hindu texts for a son of Kunti. And son of Kunti refers to Arjun because Kunti was mom of Arjun. And what this is saying is because Arjun and Krishna, chariot and charioteer is going on in the battle, which is the battle which took in Kurukshetra, which is what Mahabharata is about. So in this one, it's saying, look, the sovereign doesn't pick sides. Guru Gobind Singh is saying this, but Krishna as an incarnation of Vishnu, who is invoked as Hari also, he picked sides. He picked Pandavas over Kauravas. And he declared himself as the death incarnate, as the Kal, as the Kal. And he's siding with a friend against a foe, and Arjun being his friend. And what Guru Gobind Sahib is doing now, this can't be done, because the one I call the death and the creator does not do any of this. So the lesson for me is no earthly or mythological authority can be called the death creator. It's only the one itself.
Yeah, okay, that's all making a lot more sense now. So I think, I don't know if this is right, but there's like an implication within that of like, if one was truly like the creator and also death, then one would not partake in the plays. There is like there is an element of like deeply human sort of, or deeply flawed, we can say, aspects to like what it means to take part in the plays versus to enjoy them as we know that IkOankar does, right? Like there's some kind of difference in how even these smaller deities are relating to the plays and to existence.
And just to nuance a little bit more, Jasleen, it actually is one does play, but plays with all of them. Not in a particular singular one.
Yeah.
Because one doesn't do that. One is in all. We know that.
Yeah.
So here, the disruption is that Krishna is a revered figure. Krishna is a huge god, quote unquote, for a large segment of what we now call Hindu community. Okay? And these are very big texts, right? Gita, Mahabharata, and then Arjun and Krishna. And in that context, he's saying, I understand that. We may learn things from that play, and we must, because these are epical things, but I cannot, Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is saying, I cannot accept that as being the death itself. Because the death itself is the creator, and creator doesn't play sides. Creator has no foes or friends. Creator is not affected by praise or slander.
Yeah. Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, thank you for nuancing. I couldn't like get the words out right, so that's helpful. Okay, so then for the 5th and 6th lines, we continue with this. So the Guru says, for who has no father, mother, caste, children, and grandchildren is the emancipator. Then for what deed did Krishan come and call himself the son of Devaki? So again, what is the context here? What is the story of Krishan and Devaki, and how does this relate to the line that comes before it? What's being subverted here?
So Krishna is a very complex figure in Hindu texts and Hindu mythology and Vaishnavite tradition of Hinduism. This is why I keep using the word Hari, Vishnu, and Krishna together.
Yeah.
Because they are synonymous, they are incarnation of a particular levels. Now, so Krishna is the central figure in this Shabad, and Devaki, what we need to understand, is his mom. Now, that said, it's very complicated because in case of Krishna, he has biological fathers and mother, but he also has foster father and mother. He has brothers, he has sister, he has cousins, he has siblings, and we know all their names. Like the point I'm trying to make here is that Devaki and Vasudeva, Devaki is invoked because his biological mother, they're mother father, right? Vasudeva and Devaki are father mothers. Yashoda and Nanda are foster mother and foster father. You know, Balram is his brother. He's got a sister named Subhadra. He has a cousin named Yogamaya, and he's got several other siblings. But in addition to that, what people are more familiar with, that he has many consorts. You know, Radha being the most popular one, but Rukmini, Satyabhama, Kalindi, Jambavati, and 16,000 more. Gopiya, as they call them. And he's got several children from them, you know, Pradamya, Samba, Bhanu, and several thousand more. 10 from each, if you actually do that count, it becomes 16,008 wives and 160,080 children. So this is a huge dynasty, if I may call it today. And the reason I'm going into this much detail, people identify with this dynasty even today. When you look at the politics of India in a particular ways, the Yadu or the Yadavs or the Jadavs belong to this clan. So what this Sabad Hazares, this particular Sabad's 2 lines are doing is that the creator that Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj believes in has no mother or father, has no caste, and you can't be classifying them according to this. This creator has no particular children or no particular grandchildren. And that creator, Death, is the only one who's the real emancipator. So it is really disrupting Krishna as being the emancipator, Krishna as being the death or the god of death. And it is going into that detail by invoking Devaki Nand, the son of Devaki. You know, and I went into that detail because the relevance of all this is very much there today, because these particular clans claim certain rights, and it creates not just religious disharmonies among various groups, it creates political disharmonies in contemporary Indian society. And this, in relevance to the Sikhs, it creates incredible confusion when people say the word like Rams and Krishnas are used, so we are endorsing that. No, we are not. We are exploring those. That's what Guru is doing. Guru is looking at what can we learn from it and what are we subscribing to, because eventually for us, everything is about IkOankar, everything is about creator, and that creator who is the death itself.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I think what I get from that too is that, related to the earlier lines of like the real creator, the real death doesn't choose sides, plays with everyone, right? Like there is something deeply dangerous and kind of othering about aligning yourself with one who has chosen sides in the past in a way that justifies your treatment of people as other in the present, right? Like there, a lot can kind of be justified with the right sort of aligning with certain figures. So it is interesting.
But that phenomena is very universal, right? Just like,
yeah,
because we all invoke, like even the football games in America invoke God.
Yes.
But somebody gets defeated and somebody's going to win. So and world history, including many Sikhs, do that, right? We got to be careful with this. And this is saying there is no larger popular god than Krishna. So Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is picking him because he's very popular, but his popular stories do not fully understand his role as the death. And that role is being disrupted, that look, He's got huge network. He's got huge roles to play in major texts, and they still have very clear implications, not at the time of Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj, but also today's contemporary Indian and global society.
Yeah.
And we are being told, let's not make this mythological authority or any earthly authority as the death creator. That remains one. An example of Krishna is being utilized to make that point.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a good thing to remember. That like this paradigm just takes different forms in different like parts of the world, right? And I keep thinking about like the phrase like God is on our side that people use a lot. And yeah, we we do it everywhere and for all sorts of reasons. So yeah, that's a helpful thing. Like this is the most popular kind of context that is being addressed at that time and in that place, but that doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to everyone everywhere. So yeah, helpful reminder. Okay, so then the last two lines, the one who created deities, demons, directions, corners, and the whole expanse. What's the glory if the mouth names that one Krishan who killed Mud? So can you please, again, explain the context referred to here? Who are the characters we're talking about? And what is the Guru asking us to do?
So here the word Mora comes, right? Mor, and you have to, I think the audience and you will be familiar with the term Murari.
Yes.
That's where it's coming from.
Hmm.
Murari otherwise has multiple meanings, but it's coming in the context of Christian. It comes from this idea. Mor was people present as being a demon. First, we have to understand there is always two sides to the story, right? So we always are demonizing the other. This is where otherness really comes.
Yeah.
Mor is actually not a demon. It's presented as a demon from the side of the Krishna's side. Actually, he was the general of Narakasur. Narakasur is a legendary king of Assam. And what we have to understand is Assam, even today, is a tribal culture. They operate under a different set of rules. So somewhere in these texts, they don't all align also. The 2 texts and 3 texts I've been mentioning. But somewhere there, they have figured out how to place this. We got to understand the game that now is popularly called demons. This is why Guru Sahib starts with, all these deities and demons and everything else in this universe. They're all part of the death creator. And then he goes to one specific example, which involves Krishan. He's like, Krishan killed this Mur. Murari, Ari is the killer. Mur is this quote unquote demon, who actually is not a demon. He's a general of Naraksar, who's a very, not just an average king of Assam, he's a legendary king of Assam. And the reason I'm interested in this more and more, because, the Gurbani actually references this word a lot. Guru Granth Sahib references this word a lot. So Sikhs need to understand what is at play here. And what Guru Sahib is saying, okay, if Krishan killed Mor, and who is, again, not a demon, but a general of a king, a legendary king of Assam. And how can you say that the death creator is the one who creates everything, who is not in particular time, who is not in particular space, who does not take particular form, or does not have limits in a particular situation and environment? If my mouth is calling Krishan to be Kal because he killed Mor, which is really just a one presentation of Hindu mythology, I must not create this confusion. So basically, my understanding of this is this, that if I continue to worship or hero worship or create earthly or mythological authority who has an adversary, who has a foe, and appropriates that person as a demon, something ain't right. My mouth, which means I cannot label, Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is saying, I cannot label person who is involved in this level of particular fight to be the real Murari or the death creator.
Wow.
This is really challenging, but at the same time, very simplified for us. Yeah. Essentially, we can understand Krishna and equivalent world heroes in mythologies and texts to understand what is happening, to understand human psyches, but we must not replace them as being the gods, the god or the one, including the one who is related to, identified as the death. That's what's being said here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't think I knew the aspect of like, this is not an actual demon we're talking about. Like, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, I think maybe as like a closing, because I'm trying to now articulate how I'm understanding this, and I'd like you to kind of, correct or nuance where necessary. But I'm understanding now that the overarching like theme or message of this composition is in a way about our tendency to create gods with a capital G out of men or smaller gods, this aspect of like hero worship, where there are like things that are flawed about the way even our heroes have dealt with quote unquote enemies, or dealt with the other or further othered other people. And so I'm seeing this as like a global thing, right? Like we do this with politicians, we do this with celebrities, we do this with like historical figures that have done a lot of good, where we like completely wash away any kind of nuancing of who they were as people. And we still bring those elements into our present arguments as justification for maybe further othering. And so that's how I'm kind of seeing this disruption of like, let's take a step back and understand maybe what is the play and who are the players, versus like taking these players and elevating them as kind of infallible gods. So I don't know if that's right. I wanted to ask you what you think, what you've gotten from this, what you think the themes are here, and maybe if there's something that's sticking with you as you are revisiting your work and this composition. I don't know.
So I want to actually specifically invoke two things from the Shabad itself.
Sure.
Because that will really help us.
Yeah.
So within the Rahau line, it actually very clearly says Ad Ant Anant Murat. From the beginning to whatever the end is, and this infinite Murat, the actual word is Murat, which we today say Murti.
Yeah.
And Krishna has Murtis like many other people. So we create idol worshipping. One is physical idol, other is creating idols in their mind. Like we say, we have competitions now for idols, right? Whether it's in music or other spaces. And what this is saying is Gadan Panjanha. The ones who are carved or destroyed cannot be the final Murat, cannot be idealized.
Yeah.
So we can have ideals to understand certain things, to model certain things, to create archetypes, as we call them, right? And we all do that.
Yeah.
Psychologists have done this. But what Guru Gobind Singh Maharaj is saying, let's leave him at that modalities. And for him, only the Kartar is the Kal. That's first point.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when he says, if you happen to create an idol out of someone, please don't voice that as being Mukh Lep Naam Murar. How can I say? He's questioning that. The one who has incredible greatnesses. How can I glorify someone in implying that how can I glorifying the one by reducing that one as equal to a particular idol? In this case, the idea was of naming the Krishna itself.
Yeah.
So this is the important part. And Guru Gobind Pasha is saying, we will continue in our separation. And I'm going to end with that.
Yeah.
If we continue to make idol to be a God, quote unquote God. If we actually come out of that, then our separation will be ending and we'll be connected to only the creator as the death itself. So essentially, this is really about not just the idol worship in a physical sense. This really is about idol worship, appropriation, demonizing, making someone the other because we have identified with only a particular kind. That's part of the problem. Just like when you identify only with creator and not the death, these problems come out in real life, in our text, as well as in epical ways. And when I say epical, I don't mean historical epics. We are creating epical ideas even today, they're unfolding.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think.
You see how it's very folksy? That's the coffee part.
Yeah, yeah.
And the lung part is people still keep making efforts And somewhere in the back, they're yearning for something, a connection, but really the efforts are really being made for idol worshiping.
Yeah.
And we need to really watch out on that.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's like a pretty human tendency to be like, well, I want to idolize someone. I want to feel some kind of, and if we're talking about separation from like the one, then sometimes it feels more accessible to latch on to particular figures, and we don't realize that we're like further separating ourselves. I think the thing that you said that really has given this a new light for me is like, it's not just like we're elevating, figures to that status. It's that we're also like shrinking the vastness. It like goes both ways. So that's
and we are creating a new tribe. Don't forget that part. The 2 lines devoted to that. And then we just feed that tribe then. And when you feed that tribe, the othering gets more accentuated and amplified.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it feeds on itself. Yeah. No, this was really, like enlightening for me, because I just had no context. So thank you for providing it, and providing your insights today. I hope our listeners are feeling inspired by this conversation to maybe, I'm definitely like trying to re-examine what kind of idolizing I'm doing in my own head. And yeah, our next podcast will be on Sabad 8. I hope you join us then. And in the meantime, if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them my way at jasleen.kaur@sikhri.org. Thank you, Harinder Singh.
Well, thank you once again for asking for more context and taking us on this journey.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji.
For a deeper appreciation and connection with the Sabad, we have added Bible Beer Singh's rendition. We hope you enjoy it.
ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ ਦਸਵੀਂ ਤਲੰਗ ਕਾਫੀ ਕੇਵਲ ਕਾਲਈ ਕਰਤਾਰ ਕੇਵਲ ਕਾਲਈ ਕਰਤਾਰ। ਕੇਵਲ ਕਾਲਈ ਕਰਤਾਰ ਕੇਵਲ ਕਾਲਈ ਕਰਤਾਰ। ਆਦਿ ਅੰਤ ਅਨੰਤ ਮੂਰਤ अनंत मूरत कर्ण भंजन हार। आद अंत अनंत मूरत कर्ण भंजन हार। कालई करता केवल कालई करता। केवल कालई करतार। केवल कालई करता। केवल कालई करता। आदि अंत अनंत मूर्त कर्ण भंजन हार। आदि अंत अनंत मूर्त कर्ण भंजन हार। कालई करता केवल कालई करता। केवल कालई 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 करता। केवल कालई करता। निंद उस्तत जौन के सम शत्रु मित्र न को। निंद उस्तत जौन के सम शत्रु मित्र न को। कौन बात परीत सै पथ सारथी रथ हो। कौन बात परीत सै पथ सारथी रथ हो। कालई करता केवल कालई करता। आद अंत अनंत मूर्त कर्ण भंजन हार। आद अंत अनंत मूर्त कर्ण भंजन हार। कालई करता केवल कालई करता। केवल कालई करता। केवल कालई करता। तात मात न जात जातिर पुत्र पात्र मकंद। तात मात न जात जातिर पुत्र पात्र मुकंद। कौन काज कहाएंगे आन देव की नंद। कौन काज कहाएंगे आन देव की नंद। कौन काज कहाएंगे घड़न भंजन हार रहाओ। निंद उस्तत जौन के सम मित्र शत्रु न को। कौन बात परीत से पथ सारथी रथ हो। तात मात न जात जाकर पुत्र पात्र मुकंद। कौन काज कहाएंगे आन देव की नंद। कौन काज कहाएंगे आन देव की नंद। केवल काली करता केवल काली करता। करतार केवल काली करता केवल काली करता केवल काली करता केवल काली करता। तात मात न जात जाकर पुत्र पत्र मुकंद। कौन काज कहाएंगे आन देव की नंद। आन देव की नंद देव दैत दिशा दिशा ये कीन सर्ब पसा। सर्ब पसार यकीन सर्ब पसार। कौन उपमा तान को मुख लेत नाम मुरार। कौन उपमा तान को कौन उपमा तान को मुख लेत नाम मुरार। मुख लेत नाम मुरार मुख लेत नाम मुरार। कालई करता केवल काली करता। आद अंत अनंत मूरत गढ़न भंजन आद अंत अनंत मूरत गढ़न भंजन कालई करतार केवल कालई करता। काली दिशा विसा जह कीन सर्ब पसारी देव दैत दिशा विसा जह कीन सर्ब पसार कौन उपमा कौन को मुखलेत नाम मुरार कौन उपमा कौन को मुखलेत नाम
You were listening to SikhCast by Sikh Research Institute, illuminating every path.